Discover the secret to waking up from life's sleep with one powerful effort. Click to unlock the fourth way. Is it that easy? Let's explore. I'm Mark Roach, and welcome to Transcendent, where we examine various mystical, practical methods that I found beneficial in navigating life around the world. In this commentary, Maurice Nicoll explores the concept of effort in the context of the fourth way, a spiritual teaching system. He distinguishes between two types of effort: mechanical effort, which is automatic and driven by life's demands, example, putting up an umbrella in the rain, and conscious effort, which originates outside of life's necessities and aims at inner awakening. The work, as Nicoll describes it, relies on conscious effort to evolve beyond mechanical existence. Nicoll introduces the idea of two destinies for humanity: an outer life governed by nature and an inner potential for evolution activated by influences beyond life. A, influence, life generated; B, influence altered from higher influences; and C, from conscious humanity. Conscious effort, such as self-remembering, requires recognizing these higher influences, B and C, and distinguishing them from life's A influences. This awakens the emotional center, enabling efforts that transcend mere adaptation to life. Efforts in the work occur in two fronts: knowledge, understanding the system's ideas, and being, applying them to one's character. True understanding arises when knowledge and being unite through desire or valuation of work ideas. Practical examples of conscious effort include not identifying with life's ups and downs, external considering, empathizing with others, and combating negative emotions or depression. Self-remembering is highlighted as the most critical effort, lifting one from mechanical sleep by connecting to higher influences. Nicoll emphasizes that conscious effort must be intentional and temporary to avoid becoming mechanical. He warns against drifting, lack of direction, or falling asleep, forgetting the work, urging daily practice, especially during challenging times, to align one's will with the work's transformative goals. Now, here's the original version of Nicoll's Gurdjieff group transcript. This is from Maurice Nicoll's Psychological Commentaries, Volume 1, Birdlip, December 19th, 1941. Commentary on Effort, Part 1. When a person in this work has ceased to make any efforts, he is often said to be drifting. To drift means to have no direction. In other cases, he is said to have fallen asleep. To fall asleep in the work means simply to forget all about it. For example, a person may become so immersed in life that he forgets everything relating to the work. He is then not merely drifting, but fast asleep. In this conversation, I'm going to speak about effort. The work depends on effort. It is based on effort, but effort of a certain kind. First of all, effort is in general distinguished into two kinds: mechanical and conscious. In a general sense, mechanical effort is what we have to do, what life makes us do. All animals, all nature, all organic life, of which we form a small part, have to make mechanical effort. Let us take an example. If it's raining, you must put up your umbrella, or you might put up your umbrella. This is exactly what is meant by mechanical effort, and by such efforts we adapt to life. Conscious effort means effort that is not necessary in life and that is not occasioned by life. That is, life is not the cause of it. The source of its origin does not lie in life. This means some source other than the interest of life is necessary in order to make conscious effort, through which conscious effort becomes possible. Have you ever asked yourself if you really believe that there are any influences not belonging to life and coming from another source? Let me remind you of what this teaching says. There are two kinds of influences in life itself called A and B influences. A influences are created within life by its clash and friction, by its jealousies and hatreds, by its ambitions, its wars, its crimes, its commerce, its interest in its laws, and so on. But B influences exist in life and they speak another language because they originate from a source outside life, from what are called C influences, that is, people who have undergone individual evolution. C influences do not come from the circle of mechanical humanity, but from the conscious circle of humanity. But it is impossible for C influences to reach into life directly. They would not be understood. Theirs is another language, one which we must learn slowly. Life alters them into B influences, but the point is that the system is based entirely on the existence of these other influences distinct from life, called B and C influences, actually on C influences. That is why we have to learn a new language. You must understand that if man had not an inner secret destiny, if man were not a seed and often a very unhappy one, there would be nothing for him save life and its interests. But the inner destiny of man does not lie in life. The seed that man is capable of its own evolution, and only certain kinds of light and heat can develop it, not the light and heat of the sun, which governs external life and which is the source of it. I say all this here because unless the two destinies of man are formulated in your minds, it is difficult to understand what about the work or what the work is about. The work is what is called the fourth way, as distinct from the three other ways. It is in life, and so a person must know how to be in life and how to use life and get what he wants from life and at the same time be in the work. This is only possible for certain kinds of people, namely good householders, those who do their duty in life but do not believe in life. And you must realize that in this work, it is not demanded of you that you give up life or anything of that kind. On the contrary, this work makes you realize that you must use life as far as you can for experience. But you must not trust life and get lost in it and think that the goal lies in life experiences. Conscious efforts are efforts to awaken from the sleep induced by life and humanity. As you know, it is not in the interest of nature that man should awaken, for then he ceases to serve nature. Such efforts would be impossible if man were merely a product of nature whose sole function was to adapt to life. Why I say this at this point is that if you do not see for yourselves and are certain that there are that in life, two quite different sorts of influences, two kinds of things, two kinds of literature, two kinds of historical figures, then it will be impossible to make conscious efforts beyond a very limited degree. This is because in making the effort of personal work, the emotional center must open out and must take its right part. And if it is only turned to life and personal ambitions, etc., it cannot come into its right action. In making effort, it is necessary to consider from what part of oneself the effort springs. A person may make effort against negative emotion in public, for example, for fear of making a fool of himself before others or of losing his job, etc. This is mechanical effort. As soon as he is at home, he will express his negative emotions. Conscious effort is quite different and springs from a different part. When a man feels the existence of A and B influences and realizes that C influences must exist outside of life to account for the presence of B influences within life, he begins to feel the existence of something higher than himself. This begins to awaken the emotional center and to make conscious effort possible. Otherwise, the man will only feel self-emotions and remain in the narrow sphere of himself. The more important conscious effort is to remember oneself. This always is difficult because we all forgot ourselves long ago, but it is quite impossible if a man has no sense of higher influences and cannot see the difference between A and B influences in life. Self-remembering must have an emotional factor, not of self, not of personality, but of something deeper, or, if you prefer it, higher than one's ordinary self. The factor of will enter in self-remembering, not self-will, but conscious will. There are two sides to the work where effort can be made, and these are the only two sides which a man can evolve. The first is on the side of knowledge, and in the case of this work, the effort lies in thinking about the ideas and forming one's own individual intimate and inner connection with their meaning, and nothing is more important to start with. A man must think, speculate, and ponder, take into his mind, dwell in his own way, imagine and form fantasies. His own sense of the work as a genuine starting point in himself. For once he forms some starting point, if it is wrong, it can be modified. The work then begins to shed a light in the mind. The second is on the side of one's being. Efforts on the side of knowledge are different from efforts on the side of being. It is quite easy to find out for oneself. Man can develop in two directions and only two, on the side of knowledge and on the side of being. Only these must go hand in hand. The resultant is understanding. And as was said earlier, this work must be based on understanding. One cannot adapt to it as one does to life outside of oneself. Understanding is the most powerful force we can develop in ourselves. Nothing better can be sought for in the long run than understanding. And in the work, a man is defined as his understanding. A man is his understanding. Today, I wish to speak only on effort on the side of being. Efforts directed upon one's being are different, as was said, from efforts directed on to thinking about the knowledge of this system. The two sides of man, the side of his knowledge and the side of his being, must be united to form an understanding. This work gives more knowledge than we have being for. But it is very difficult to unite this knowledge with being. The whole task, however, is to do so. And the first necessity is to value the knowledge that is like it, to wish it, to feel a desire for it. Knowledge can only unite with being through some emotion, through some desire, through willingness. One must will what one knows. Otherwise, knowledge cannot unite with being. You cannot work on your being apart from knowledge of this system, and you cannot have any practical knowledge of the system unless you apply it to your being. And you cannot apply it to your being, that is, it cannot enter your will and so act on you if you do not wish it, desire it. A man's ordinary state is that he does not will what he knows. We act from our state of being, not from our knowledge. It is our will that acts, and our will arises from our level of being. So a man knows better, but acts worse. And as long as he is in that state, he has no unity in himself and so no understanding, because there are two separate sides in him. For knowledge to act on being, there must be a desire or delight or pleasure in the ideas of the work. For nothing can pass from the side of knowledge to the side of being without desire or pleasure or longing, that is, without willingness. Then a man will wish to live with what he knows, to live his knowledge, and his will and his knowledge will begin to coalesce. This is where it is here that the whole valuation of the work and its inner background comes in. Everything in the work starts from valuation, and in this means wanting something. For you do not value a thing that you do not want it if you do not want it. You do not value a thing if you do not want it. This brings in the will. And it is through the will, through willingness, that you begin to apply knowledge in your being. If you do then apply it, then your knowledge will begin to turn into understanding through a union between the will of your being and the knowledge in your mind. As you know, understanding is clearly defined in this system. Understanding is the arithmetical mean between your knowledge and your being. So you see that to have knowledge in these ideas is not enough. It is quite easy to see that when a person only has knowledge but not understanding of this work. If you understand something, you can speak of it in different ways. If it is merely knowledge, you will speak of it from memory. Now, as regards effort on being, everyone must make conscious effort on his being every day, and especially at this period of time when everyone is going to sleep. If you wish to take life as your teacher, then, as was said in a previous paper, you must practice non-identifying with what life brings you, pleasant or unpleasant, for a certain time every day. Life demands mechanical effort, but if you practice non-identifying, it becomes conscious effort. Only do it for a certain time, say an hour, and keep conscious and observe yourself carefully. For instance, make your aim not to object to anything for an hour. This helps you see what non-identifying means. Afterwards, you can relax as regards to the work and do what you want if you like, but either work or don't work, and know what you're doing. Do not lie in between centers. Do not drift for lack of any mental direction, and do not at this time fall asleep. To relax is not necessarily to fall asleep. Now, as regards working on special things in yourself and making effort in regard to them, that is on the side of your being, on the kind of person you are, and the way you react. First, take your negative side. That is your daily negative emotions. Try to see, first of all, that you're negative and acknowledge it. This helps it by itself. Now, as you know, it takes another person to make you negative. So ask yourself some questions such as these. One, do I think I am badly treated by someone? Or two, am I jealous of someone? Or three, is it mechanical disliking? This helps you formulate your situation to yourself. Now, try to formulate the answers to yourself. Then try to think what external considering means. External considering means putting yourself in another person's position and realizing his or her difficulties. It is one way of transforming life. So now become the person you think has treated you badly or the person you're jealous of, etc. Try to do this sincerely. It requires a conscious effort. Visualize yourself as the person and reverse the position. That is, you become the person you dislike or hate or criticize, and you're now looking at another person called yourself. As a rule, this will cure you very quickly if you can do it. But if you're in an evil state of negative emotion, as we all are at times, nothing will help you save realizing what you yourself are like. That is, what evil you have in you and what you are really like. This is painful, but we cannot change without pain. The work is a mirror, and everyone in it can help you see your own self in that mirror. You will not understand this unless you see yourself in others or others in yourself. External considering is the main way to deal with negative emotions, but it is necessary to understand what it means. It depends on visualization. External considering takes some time. It is difficult to do sincerely, that is, lightly. It requires always a great effort to do it, but it acts on being directly. Some find it impossible because they cannot imagine they might be someone else, especially a person they despise. This makes the work difficult for them after a time. Now let us speak on efforts on depression. Depression is not the same as being negative. There is one interesting thing about depression to be noticed, namely that it affects all centers, even the instinctive center. Depression is not due only to a loss of hope and belief in the future, although this is a common cause. It can simply arise from making no effort of any kind so that the centers are waterlogged, so to speak. And on the other hand, the state itself, however caused, is one in which the energy in centers turns sour. It can arise simply from a picture of oneself. As one imagines, one is always, let us say, successful, and finds one is not. But whatever its cause, the state of depression must be recognized and every kind of effort made to overcome it. I say effort because effort only will change the state, even the effort of doing just ordinary small necessary things. But it is the conscious effort of remembering yourself that will instantly lift you out of depression. The reason is that it brings you into the work's eye. That is, the eyes that feels the influences of the work. And out of the eyes in which depression is centered. And here I must add that you might fight to have the work in you. You must fight in your mind for the work to keep it alive. Otherwise, it begins to get cold. Now, take the question of conscious effort on mechanicalness. This is a very big question. Begin with talking, outer and inner. Talking is the most mechanical thing in a person. Remember, it does not only mean talking at the time, but talking afterwards. I must warn you that it is always easy to see when a person has been talking badly. The talking is not merely saying things, but writing them or showing them in some way by intonation, by gesture, by hinting, and so on. Hinting is a very bad example of wrong taking, wrong talking. Finally, it means talking inside of oneself. Try to think what you have said during the day and then think of the rules. People often infect one another by bad talking. That is, they're dangerous to one another. And remember what I said. And remember here that what I say to anyone in private is not to be talked about. That is a definite rule. Now take another mechanical habit apart from talking. First, you must observe whether it is a bad habit. That is, if it puts you asleep. There are good habits which are mechanical, but which try to alter them. Distinguish between good and bad mechanical habits. Notice the clear example, that is laziness, greediness, etc. Try to overcome it for a short time, that is, while you have the force to do so. Never work on yourself beyond the point that it is useful, for then effort ceases to be conscious and becomes in turn mechanical. Everything becomes mechanical in time. Remember that. Everything you do consciously is preserved for you. Everything you do mechanically, since you do not do it, is lost. So efforts must be conscious. Actually, there are no such things as mechanical efforts in the work. They belong to life. There is a class of efforts called in the work efforts to avoid effort. This means that people make all sorts of useless and unnecessary efforts and avoid making the effort that is required. You remember the clown at the circus? He rushes about doing all sorts of useless things. This clown is ourselves. But we will speak of these useless efforts next time. That concludes Nicole's transcript. I'm very curious if this touched you, and if so, I'd love to get your comments here. I'm Mark Roach, wishing you all the best.